find our kind who feel like that is what is acceptable. Popularity does not equate acceptability before God. And I want to say to you this morning that God is still looking for people that can walk with Him alone. My text is from Luke chapter 13, 24. It says, make every effort to enter through the narrow gate, because many, I tell you, will try to enter and will not be able to enter it. Also in Matthew chapter 7, verse 13 to 14. It says, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. For small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life. Only few people finds it. My brothers and sisters, I declare to you this morning that the road to destruction is still very wide. The road to damnation is still very broad. And many people are there that still walk on it. Popularity is not acceptability. Because it is popular does not mean it is godly. Because it is traditional does not mean it is doctrinal. The way that leads to life is getting narrower and narrower every day. The Bible says that even if few people finds it, it said it is still very difficult to pass through. A lot of us have the heart and desires to do the will of God, but we want to do the will of God according to public opinion and acceptability, but not according to the narrowness of the requirements of God. We want to serve God on our own terms. We want to serve God on ideals that looks acceptable or that is acceptable to us. My brothers and sisters, you are among those that have found the way, but that is finding it difficult to enter. It's a broad, and many walk in that broadness, but narrow and straight is the gate. Say a few people find it, but among the people that find it, say many will try to enter, but will not be able, because they want to enter it on their own terms. You can't serve God in the days that we live in on your own terms anymore. What it requires to serve God today is to seek His will and to abide by it. So here, my people who are called by my name, we humble themselves and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways and walk with my ways. He said, I, the Lord from heaven, I will hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and what? Healed their land. The question I want to ask, are you ready to walk alone with God? And it is not strange to find yourself in a place where you are alone with God. Many people that have walked with God in the past always find themselves in this situation. And the danger of not accepting the reality of this condition is that you will be destroyed with the popular. I kept thinking and asking myself how a man called Noah was able to be saved in a whole generation. In the world of today, the population of the world is about 6 billion. Imagine it's only one man that found God among 6 billion men. One man among 6 billion people that lived found God. Do you think it was easy for him? Many times he will question himself, am I running out of my mind? Because people will say to you, what is wrong with you? You're not the only one. That's why as a pastor I've made up my mind not to join the bandwagon. If I did one Sunday, if I just meet one person here, I will still preach with the same energy and intensity I will preach. Because I know how precious one soul can be to God. Imagine Noah was the only church member in a whole generation. How frustrated his pastor would be. And because it took 100 years of patience, 100 years of perseverance, 100 years of consistent labor, God spoke to him that it will rain. For 100 years the rain did not come, and he did not become weak in faith. He did not call God a liar. He did not join the bandwagon. It's just one thing God has promised you. It's not even up to 10 years yet. We have already joining the bandwagon. We are already being introduced to alternatives. We're already taking suggestion from men of depraved minds and warped thought and warped thinking. There may not be results according to what God has promised. But people that have worked with God are not just result-oriented people, but they are obedient-driven. People that are given to the obedience of the will of God. We live in a world that is result-driven. And we hear slogans like, only food proves. Then show me where it is happening. That is where God is. And God spoke to us through Elijah that God is not in noise, or is not in the spectacular. Elijah was looking at God. And the Bible said that there was a wild wind. He went. He said God was not there. He said he saw fire. He went there. God must be here. He said God was not there. He saw noise. He said God was not there. But he spoke to him and said he went to the cliff of the rock. And God was in a still, small, lonely voice. We look for God in the spectacular. But God is where it can be heard in quietness and confidence. Is somebody following me this morning? This morning I'm going to give us about 6 keys how to walk with God. What it takes to walk with God. But before I get there, let me build our appetite for the desire to walk with God. Don't be afraid to walk alone with God. When God is nudging you to the consciousness of righteousness, don't be looking for who is doing what, who is not doing what. If God is saying, my son, walk in heat, walk in this path, don't be saying that Sister Dami is not walking there now. Edda is not walking there now. No, go with God alone in that journey is pointing your heart in that direction. Excuse me. Being ready to walk alone with God is bravery. It will demand courage. I have made up my mind as for me and my house. If you walk with God, you cannot be a man of public opinion. You can be a celebrity if you want to walk with God. Celebrity are thermometric people. Their lives are regulated by the perception of their fans. So even when God is asking you to do something, if nobody like it, we think that God is not in it. That is why most of us will respond and we thermometer our lives by how people perceive us. Excuse me, if you are a people perceiver, you cannot walk with God. Because people are not likely to like you. Rather, they are likely to disdain you. You are likely to be scorned of men. Do you think people were clapping for Noah when he was building the ark? They were mocking him. You know, the reality of Noah was so serious and severe that rain has never fallen from heaven before that time. So when he said, why are you building the ark? He said, rain is falling. They don't even know what rain is. Because in those days, the Bible says that water come up from the ground. There was no rain. There had never rained in the days of Noah. And a man said there's going to be rain. You know what they will call him? You are a madman. Do you think it will be cheap? A project to build the ark? Do you think it's a cheap project? What it meant was that Noah was laboring, working, gathering resources and money and pumping it into the ark. that the reality of what is projecting and never existed before. So when people see you following God, all your resources, they will say, your church. When they are seeing you committing and dedicating yourself to God, they say, what is driving in? From today, tell them God is what? Driving me. Your actions, your directions, men will find strange and abhorrent. They will abhor it, they will hate it. That was why Jesus said, woe unto you if men speak good about you. He said, woe unto you if men, everything, men clap for you. He said, you are not ready to walk with me. You are not ready to walk with me. So my brothers and sisters, my charge to us this morning is that we should be willing and consider ourselves strangers to this world. And that's what we are. We are pilgrims and we are strangers. A man that will walk with God must be a man that is mission oriented and vision driven. Mission orientation. That is, you must know the mind of God and be a missionary along that purpose. We have few missionaries today because we have lost vision as God's people. We have lost God's vision.